On the 27th of June 2000, summer in Warren, Massachusetts, promised days of sunshine, fun, and the carefree attitude typical of youth. For Molly Bish, a 16-year-old teenager, it was the start of her first summer job as a lifeguard at Commons Pond, a tranquil, family-friendly lake. With her infectious energy and easy smile, Molly seemed to have the future in her hands. However, on that seemingly ordinary day, the summer paradise would transform into a nightmare that would haunt a community for years. Molly Bish disappeared from her lifeguard post without a trace, triggering a massive search and a wave of unanswered questions. How can a young woman simply vanish from a public place in broad daylight without anyone seeing or hearing anything? Prepare to delve into one of the most painful and complex disappearance cases in Massachusetts history, a saga that tested a family's faith, challenged investigators, and revealed the persistence of a mystery that, even with the identification of a suspect, still cries out for complete closure. On that morning of the 27th of June, Molly Bish arrived at her lifeguard post at Commons Pond, ready for another day's work. She was a responsible and dedicated young woman, and her presence at the lake was a guarantee of safety for swimmers. However, by around 10 a.m., something was wrong. The lifeguard post was empty. Molly's belongings, including her backpack and her book, were there, but she had vanished. Molly's absence quickly raised concern. Police were called, and an immediate search was launched, involving rescue teams, sniffer dogs, and hundreds of community volunteers. The lake was scoured, the shores were inspected, but there was no sign of Molly. The hope of finding her alive diminished with each passing hour, and the anguish of the Bish family grew with every minute. What could have happened to Molly? Had she drowned? Had she been abducted? The questions hung in the air, unanswered, transforming the joy of summer into a chilling nightmare. A haunting clue and a tireless campaign, a disturbing detail emerged during the investigation. A mysterious man, described as a mustachioed man, had been seen in the lake area the day before Molly's disappearance. He was in a white car and seemed to be observing the location. This information, though intriguing, led to no concrete leads at the beginning of the investigation. The desperate Bish family launched public appeals, and Molly's image appeared in newspapers and on televisions across the country. The Molly Bish case quickly became one of Massachusetts' most well-known, mobilizing the community and generating a wave of solidarity. But the young lifeguard seemed to have vanished into thin air. For almost 3 years, Molly Bish's disappearance remained a mystery. Police followed countless leads, interviewed hundreds of people, but the case seemed to have reached a dead end. The Bish family, however, never gave up searching for the truth. They created a foundation in Molly's name, keeping her memory alive and pressuring authorities to continue the investigation. With each passing year, the pain of uncertainty deepened, but the hope of finding Molly, or at least knowing what had happened to her, never faded. A tragic discovery and lingering questions. On the 9th of June, 2003, the search for Molly Bish came to a tragic and painful end. Her remains were found in a wooded area in Palmer, Massachusetts, about 5 miles from where she disappeared. The discovery confirmed the family's worst fears and shocked the community. Her cause of death was determined to be homicide, but the killer's identity remained a mystery for a long time. Police intensified the investigation, but the lack of direct evidence and the time elapsed hindered progress. The Molly Bish case became a cold case, a mystery that seemed destined to remain unsolved. Over the years, the investigation focused on several suspects. In 2009, Rodney Stanger, a convicted sex offender with a history of violence against women, was named as a person of interest in the case. Stanger, who was imprisoned for other crimes, had a history of attacks in rural areas and fit the description of the mustachioed man seen at the lake. However, he was never formally charged with Molly Bish's murder, and the evidence against him was circumstantial. Molly's family continued to fight for justice, but the lack of a formal conviction was an open wound. In 2021, Massachusetts police announced a new development in the Molly Bish case. They had identified a new suspect, a man who was already deceased, but did not publicly release his name. This revelation brought a mix of relief and frustration for the Bish family. Relief at finally having a name for Molly's killer, but frustration at knowing he would never be brought to justice in a court of law. The Molly Bish case was resolved in the sense that her body was found and her cause of death was determined to be homicide. Although a suspect was identified, he was already deceased and there was no formal conviction. The case is considered solved by identification of the perpetrator, but without a trial or confession from the culprit. An enduring legacy of awareness as of the present moment, June 2025, the Molly Bish case remains an example of incomplete justice. The Bish family, despite the pain and the lack of a complete legal resolution, continues to honor Molly's memory through the Molly Bish Foundation, which works to educate children and parents about safety and disappearance prevention. The Molly Bish case is a testament to the resilience of a family who refused to give up, and how a single disappearance can mobilize a community and inspire change. Molly's story is a grim reminder that evil can lurk anywhere, but also of the importance of never losing hope in the search for answers and justice. The Molly Bish case is a chilling reminder that the search for justice can be a long and obstacle-ridden journey, especially when the truth hides in the shadows of a crime without witnesses. It's a story that forces us to confront the vulnerability of life and the persistence of evil. The saga of Molly Bish is a testament to the strength of a family who refused to give up, and how a single disappearance can expose the flaws in a society and the need for constant vigilance. Although the case has an identified suspect, the lack of a formal conviction is a void, a reminder that not all stories have a happy and complete ending. But what happens when a disappearance is so bizarre it defies all logical explanations, and the only thing left is the search for a truth that seems forever out of reach? In our next video, we'll explore the case of Bridget Townsend, a story that will leave you questioning reality. Don't miss it.